Hello friends, and welcome to the Hanged Man in the Moon. If this is your first time here, welcome. Thank you for coming. I'm pleased to meet you. If you've been here before, thank you for returning. I'm truly honored. Friends, if you are a returning visitor, you probably could tell from the thumbnail to this video that this is my series in which I use either Terre de Marseille or Terre de Marseille style decks, or now even smith-waite style decks, or Thoth-based decks, or continental tarot decks to respond to a larger spread that I lay in the week. And I've already done that larger spread for this week, and this is the response. This is to help us get a more crystallized message, perhaps a more crystallized understanding of that larger, a little bit more amorphous spread from the week. Or we might get a second layer of understanding. Yeah? I think we're going to get a more crystallized message this time. Now, I've been using, let me back up a little bit. I am in the middle of my deep dive into the Lenormand system. Yes, you maybe already know that. I'm at the tail end of that deep dive, but I'm still doing a Lenormand spread, a large Lenormand spread every week. And the deck I'm using for the Lenormand this week is one that was created by the creator of the Tildwick Tarot. So I decided for this lunar cycle, while I use that deck, I will continue using the Tildwick Tarot. So you'll see the tarot and the oracle deck that I'm using with this spread in just a moment. But that spread earlier this week, maybe it's this direction, is this direction earlier for you and that direction later? Let me know in the comments below. So the spread I did earlier in the week, I think was primarily, and I haven't actually landed on a title for it yet. I haven't edited that video yet. I think I'm just going to call it maturity. Yeah, that spread was about maturity. And if you haven't seen that spread yet, and you haven't watched that video, I highly recommend you go and watch that first and then come back to this one, because I'm going to be reading this spread in relationship to that spread. And context is important. So I'll put a card up here for you to be able to click on, hop on over, watch that video, and then come back and watch this one, so you get a better understanding of why I'm reading these cards in this way. Just in case you did do that, and maybe you watched that video in bits and pieces, which is okay, or it's been a few days and you just want a quick refresher, that spread seemed to be pointing out that we are in an environment of not full truths, to say it most gently and delicately. We are in an environment of deception, falsehood, and lies, perhaps. And we can see that if you watch the news on either TV or YouTube or wherever you consume news, that in many cases, if not most, people's opinions of what's going on is more important than the truth. And we're shouting opinion at each other right and left, which is all manipulative deception, if you ask me. And it's not only from politicians, it's also from other sources in our lives. Yes? And so we're called to be able to navigate this, to mature, grow up a little bit. Yeah? So we've got this spread here. Now, for me, it's here. I'll show you the spread. But before I do, let me thank you. Thank you for doing all those things that you do, for hitting the thumbs up button. Thank you for subscribing. Those things help our community to increase, help us to expand. And we do. Bit by bit, we expand, thanks to you. And for those of you who comment in the comment box, thank you as well. You're a blessing to me and to our community. You're wonderful. Thank you for doing those things. So friends, what I'm going to do is I am going to show you the spread. And what we will do then is I'll tell you about the decks that are being used and the spread that I laid out. And then we'll break the spread down into its two major component parts and read those parts together. Are you all ready, friends? Here is this week's spread. So just in case you are new here, the two decks you saw were the Tildwick Tarot. Those are the three above, the three cards above. It's a lovely deck. They're in the middle of their, or they have, what do I want to say? They have printed their 10th anniversary printing of the deck, and it's still available at the time of the recording of this video. And I'll put a link in the description box below if you want to go buy that deck. It's wonderful. The version you see now is not the 10th anniversary, it's the 2nd edition. Yeah? So, just so you know, I was not aware of the Tildwick Tarot when the 1st edition was out, and I missed that chance, but I did get the 2nd edition. Oh, wait a second. So I have... No. This is the 2nd edition, yes. I was thinking of a different deck. The Majestic Earth Tarot, which I got a dinged box version of its 1st edition by luck. And it really wasn't dinged. I'm sorry. I saw nothing wrong with the deck, but I got it at a good price, and I got it after the deck was quote unquote out of print, so that was lovely, but that's a different deck entirely. So this is the 2nd edition. This is the 2nd edition of the Tildwick Tarot. The 3 cards well, actually there were 6 cards below. I don't know if you noticed that. Those are from an oracle deck called The Mystic, Augur, and Sage. It's by Kelly Burton, the creator of the Sacred Bee Tarot, Keeper of the Sacred Bee Tarot. I'm sorry, what are the actual names? The Journey of the Sacred Bee Tarot, the Keeper of the Sacred Bee Tarot, and the Wisdom of the Bee Oracle. This is another one of her decks. I love this deck, and I'm using this deck along with the Tildwick Tarot in a very specific, special way. And I'll describe how I use that deck later on. But if you want to get this deck, there will be a link in the description box below, and you can go get it yourself. It's a lovely oracle deck. Fabulous. Very, very, I don't want to say zen, but it does have a little bit of that Eastern philosophy to it. And you'll see why I say that in just a moment. So, friends, are you all ready? What I'm going to do... Oh, what is the spread? Oops. The spread. I laid this out in a very traditional significance challenge advice 3-card spread. So the first card is the significant answer to the question, what is the central message of the Lenormand Spread from earlier in the week? The second card is the challenge, which could be a positive challenge of something we're trying to reach for or attain, or a negative challenge as an obstacle. And then the third card is the advice. That's pretty cut and dry, yes? And then the 3 cards, the oracle cards below, which will modify the 3 cards above, are laid in a very specific and interesting way, and I'll describe that later. Okay, friends, so first, let me show you the 3 cards from the Tarot deck, and we'll read them together. Here they are. Friends, you saw from left to right we had, now could you see? I swear to goodness, I love this deck. I love the art on this deck. The titles on the cards are really difficult for me to read, and I don't know, could you read them? They're a little easier to read in the photograph than they are in person for me. But from left to right, we got the King of Cups, which honestly, the first time I saw the card laid out, I thought it was the Knight of Cups, just briefly, for like a day or two. And then we had the 3 of Wands and the Page of Cups. Now, I don't know if you know this, but I have not actually read this spread yet. I'm going to read the spread with you together. I've made notes on the cards individually, but I have not read the spread. So, let's read the spread together. So in the significant answer card to the spread, we had, again, the King of Cups. Here it is. Who is the King of Cups? Now you see in this card here, we have what looks like the inside of a room with a window going out. We've got flowers on the sides of the window. There's a candle in the center. The reason that it's a window is because the creator of this deck, and I mentioned this in the last video a little bit more detailed fashion, but the creator of this deck has the same idea as many of us, but not me, that the kings are the air element of the suits, the queens are the water, the knights are the fire, and the pages are the earth. I agree with the queens and the pages. I don't think I know of anybody who disagrees with that the queens are water and the pages are earth. However, to me, the knights are air and the kings are fire. And I described why I think and believe that in the video from last week. So for me, the King of Cups would be fire of water, because cups are water suit. But for the creator of this deck, the kings are air of water because of cups. And so we have the window there being a symbol of air flowing through, right? And light. But what is the King of Cups? The King of Cups, the significant answer, what is the central message of this Lenormand spread, is the King of Cups, which is emotional balance. What could be more perfect than that? Yeah? Being compassionate. Being diplomatic. Caring for others. Fatherhood. Emotional balance. All of the things that the significator card from the Lenormand spread were pointing at. I don't know if I could think of a better response to the question, what is the central message of the Lenormand spread, than this card up here. Yeah, so we want to do all those things, be emotionally balanced, be compassionate. We don't want to point fingers at people that we think might be giving falsehoods or being dissembling. But still, we want to keep our balance, keep our emotional balance in the turmoil of the waters around us. Now you'll notice that there are swans up. Do you see the swans above the architectural decoration at the top of the window? There are two swans up there facing out. Love this card. I love the architectural and the interior design aspects of these cards. They're just fabulous. So that's the main answer, right? And okay, so zodiacal associations. For me, the King of Cups is Scorpio. The Knight of Cups is Pisces. The Queen of Cups is Cancer. The Page of Cups has no direct association with a zodiacal entity. So, the Scorpio, you might be thinking, well, Scorpio for the King of Cups, does that really work? Shouldn't he be more of Pisces? Well, for me, the Knight of Cups is the more romantic one, right? So even though we're emotionally balanced, we're compassionate and diplomatic, we can also be intensely so, like a Scorpio. Yeah? Passionate in our emotional balance. Focused in our emotional balance. Now, Scorpios have deep emotions, right? They're transformative. They have a strong sense of intuition. And the king, being the master of water, it being the King of Cups, would have those qualities, right? They would have deep emotions. They're balanced emotionally. They're not riding the surface. That's not the reason why they're emotionally balanced. They're deep. There's an intensity there. Just like the king of air would have the intensity of an aquarium. Now, or the intensity of fire of a Leo. So, for the king of fire, for me, so that's the quality, yeah? Our maturity and our emotional balance and compassion is deep. It's intense. It is intuitive, deeply intuitive. And then we have this card here, the Three of Wands, for the challenge, right? What is the Three of Wands? Love this card. You see the ship, an echo of the ships in the Three of Wands card for the smith-waite deck. Yeah, the guy standing on the hill, perhaps, with the three wands looking out at a sea, and there are ships on the sea. That's an echo of those ships there. On top of the bureau in this very fiery wallpaper-like room, right? And what is the Three of Wands? It's progress, right? It's an adventurous course. It's the setting off on the ship. It's action from our intention, right? Our intention is set with the Two of Wands, and now we start taking action in the three. There's productivity here, the beginnings of productivity, but productivity and doing the work. Now, for me, zodiacally, my zodiacal associations for Tarot are not the same as the Golden Dawn. So if you are rigidly attached to the Golden Dawn associations, you might want to skip this. You might get irritated. But for me, I read the zodiac for Tarot with the traditional planets and the triplicity of the decanates. So, of the decans. So, for example, for the fire, this is a fire card, right? For the fire elements, this would be Aries being the first three cards, 1, 2, and 3. I do start on 1, I do not start on 2, like the Thoth deck would. I start 1, 2, 3, right? 1, 2, 3 would be Aries, the initiators of the fire suit. Now, the cardinal fire element that begins the fire suit of the zodiac, of the tarot. So for Aries, there are 3 decans. And for me, those 3 decans are, first one being Mars, the second one being the Sun for Leo. I'm sorry, the first one being, I was right, Mars for Aries, the second one being the Sun because of Leo, and then the third being Jupiter for Sagittarius. And so this being the Three of Wands, we have the Sagittarius decan of Aries, which gives us Jupiter in Aries and gives us the mutable aspect of cardinal fire entering our reading here. The mutable aspect, the cleaning up and getting ready to move on, part of the getting started aspect of Aries, right? Now, because this is the third decan, we also have an exaltation. And so Mars, being the planet of Aries, is exalted in Capricorn. So we also have Mars in Capricorn. Mars in apricot corn. Mars in Capricorn. So what does that mean? Well, for Jupiter in Aries, we have the bold, enthusiastic person, right? And an adventurous personality. Someone with a strong desire for leadership and exploration. All total 3 of Wands characteristics, right? That's our challenge. Also, Mars in Capricorn gives us the elements of being strong and practical, determined, and having a determined approach to the work that we're doing. Right? So, Aries, especially the first decan of Aries, can be a little bit scattered. Yeah? Can be, I want to start this, and I want to start this, and I want to start this, and this is exciting, and this is interesting. Let's get going, right? The mutable aspect brings a little bit more determination, and Mars being in Cancer gives us a lot more determination of doing the work, being determined. I start this thing and I'm going to do it, right? All three of one characteristics, if you ask me. So, I think this association is very well validated, especially in this card. So that's the challenge, yeah? To do the work, get activated, be determined, expand, start moving forward. Be bold, be enthusiastic from our place of emotional balance, maturity. And so the advice is to do what? Is to Page of Cups, right up here. Do the work of the Page of Cups. What is the Page of Cups? Page of Cups. Love this image, yeah? The pages are all outdoor gardens, right? So because this is earth of whatever suit it is. So this is earth of water. So here we have an outdoor water element in a garden. Yeah, you see the pool in front. You see the outdoor wall there. Yeah, you see the trees growing behind the wall. Or outside of the wall, I should say, not behind, outside of the wall, in the environment outside. Inside the wall, inside of the residential area, we have this wonderful garden with this little pool. We got all these flowers, lovely little picture of what looks like a young woman in a portrait in there above the central bouquet of flowers or the pot of flowers. Yeah, you see that? Beautiful card. The air above. Who is the Page of Cups? The Page of Cups is a creative person, right? The Cups page is one that goes out after opportunities, is intuitive, gets messages, right? Is curious, but not the curiosity of the Page of Swords. Why? What's happening? What did happen here? Why do you do that? What do you want? What do they think? Right? Not the questioner, but rather the curious one, the one that's interested in possibilities. What could happen? What could I feel too? What could I feel? Right? What intuitive information can I receive? The Page of Cups is also the dreamer, right? The sensitive, the poetic page. So, because we are mature, we also want to regain our naivete in our emotions as well. Our innocence in our emotions, as we are being the King of Cups, we also want to be the Page of Cups in our depth and balance. That's the advice for this week, I think. As we take on the challenge of being the Three of Wands, of going out and doing the work, making the progress, expanding, being productive, manifesting the things that we have intended for ourselves. Does that make sense? So friends, let me show you those oracle cards once more so we can look at them, and I'll tell you why they're laid out the way that they're laid out, and we'll start reading them together. Okay? So here are the oracle cards right now. Friends, I don't know if you could tell, but there were actually 6 cards there. Yeah? On the bottom, there were 3 cards from the deck, which were the Mystic, the Augur, and the Sage cards. And you could just see the tops of them, and on the tops of them you could see the planetary symbols, yeah, of the sun, the moon, and the earth, or maybe even salt. So this is because I put them together, there's an alchemical quality to the red king, the white queen, and then the resultant salt that balances out the fire and the water, right? The earth or the salt, yeah? So that's one reason I use them like this. I also use them as placeholders for the oracle cards that land on top of them. So you saw that we had from left to right, on top of the mystic, we had practice and patience. Above the augur card for the moon, which was survival and regeneration. And then above the earth salt card for the sage, we had the allegory. Interesting, right? So let's look at this card first, the mystic. What is the placeholder, the mystic, telling us? The mystic is the one who engages in magic who engages in magic. They alter their actions and strengthen their capacities to influence outcomes. Yeah, they change what they're doing. They increase the things that they can do, and they do both of them to alter outcomes to get the kinds of results that they want. Right? That's what the mystic is for this deck. And then on top of that, we have this card, which is the practice patience card. It's a beautiful card, right? We see what looks like the back of a meditator in lotus position. That's what it looks like to me. And behind the meditator, we have a pink, very deep, hot pink turtle, right? We also have a mandala around the head of or a halo around the head of the meditator. We have plant life around the meditator. It's a beautiful, beautiful card. But what does practice patience mean in this deck for the mystic? Well, what are we engaging in? The magic we're engaging in, the actions that we're altering our actions into doing what? And remember, this is modifying the King of Cups, right? We want to find opportunities to relax into meditation, especially when facing something we label negative, which was all about this week's Lenormand Spread, right? We want to breathe in, notice our emotional discomfort, anything that seems to be coming up, and we want to breathe out and allow that discomfort to flow out with our breath. Now do some breath meditation is the suggestion for this card. We want to release also, we want to wish for the release from suffering for other people as well. Because remember, there was that idea of falsity and deception around us. Why are people false and deceptive? It's because they are suffering. So we not only want to clear our own inner space, but we want to wish for the well-being and the end of suffering for others, because clearly they're suffering because there is deception and falsity around us. If they were happy shining lights of human beings, they wouldn't need to lie or deceive or manipulate the truth, right? So, as we keep our emotional balance, as we do the work of the King of Cups, we also want to take the time to practice patience and meditate and clear our inner space and wish for the clearing of other people as well. Okay, that's the significance. Now, the card underneath the Three of Wands, in the place of the augur, which is the challenge, what is the augur card telling us? The augur card, which is the placeholder, is the card for suggesting that we look for signs, that we develop our intuition and observations to understand life's challenges. We want to develop our understanding and our ability to see both rationally and irrationally meaning intuitively, what's going on around us? What are the challenges? Yeah? And the card that covered that placeholder was this one, survival and regeneration. It's not just survival, but survival and regeneration, right? And we have this lovely iguana on top of a guy's head, right? It looks like this guy is very worried. This guy looks very worried, doesn't he? Do you see the face underneath the iguana? colorful iguana, oranges and greens. The face below looks like it's carved out of stone, doesn't it? And we see some flowers above the iguana, who's just sitting there on top of this guy's head. Yeah? So what is the survival and regeneration card telling us? It's telling us to learn when to be still and when to react quickly. Now the iguana, for example, will sit there. It'll look like stone. But when food comes by just near enough, it will very quickly release its long tongue, snatch it and eat it and return to center, right? I think that's the idea for us this week. It's to find our stillness and our ability to act quickly when called for. We want to cultivate our adaptability and resilience. Perfect for when we feel like we're surrounded by untruths. Yeah, we want to be resilient. We want to be adaptable. Not to change our minds by the lies or the deception, but rather be adaptable to be able to navigate what's going on around us, right? We want to take time to nourish ourselves and be ready to face challenges, because there are going to be challenges around us. The challenge of of navigating deception. We want to use our willpower to turn in the direction of moving up the emotional scale. That's what this card is telling us, yeah? We want to be able to move, we find our balance, and the challenge is to move up the emotional scale, be ready to act when it's time to act, nourish ourselves so we have the strength and the resources to act when it's time to act. That's all describing the Three of Wands, which is progress, expansion, right? Action from our intention, manifesting action in the world. So the challenge is to move from our meditation out into action into the world, being flexible, pointing ourselves in the direction of our joy and our happiness and our appreciation and our well-being, and taking care of ourselves too. That's a lot of stuff on our plate this week, right? And the next card that is under the Page of Cups, right, is this Sage card. And the Sage is the one who has stories and secrets that can be told, right? The Sage is the one who explores books and legends, using them as metaphors for the current situation. That's the meaning of the Sage card. And the card above that is what? Now remember, we were just talking about using legends and stories to explain what we're experiencing in the present. The card above that is this card, which is the allegory. A story, right? To do exactly that same thing. And here, what do we see? We see what looks like, I don't know, it could be a child with a sword, or it could be a young woman with a sword. It's hard for me to tell age with this figure. But there's a sword up above their head, and there's a heart dangling from a chain in their other hand. And it looks like there's this glowing stone in front of them. And I really wish that Kelly Burton had described the images that she had chosen for the deck, but what we get for meanings for this card is diving deep into the allegories of our lives. So then, rather than looking at the myths and legends out there, we want to dive into our own allegories. We want to translate the symbols of our experience that lead us toward our transformation. So it could actually be dream interpretation, sure, but it could also be the stories that we tell about our lives. Have you ever looked at those stories as an allegory for your life? that they reveal something that can be healed or can be used as a tool or can be discovered from the lives we're living here in this three-dimensional world of physical universal creation. It's something that I heard of just recently in a discussion with Susan, is it P or T Chang, the creator, the one who was on Fortune's Wheel, the podcast with M.M. Moline. It was an enduring podcast. I highly recommend that podcast. She's starting a new podcast though. And on her first episode, she had Mary Greer on with her, and she had a 25 minute discussion with Mary Greer. And part of that discussion was this, they dropped this idea, which I latched onto, was the stories that we tell about our lives. Doing the interpretation of that story, of the symbolic interpretation of that story, like we would interpret a dream, to discover what that is telling us. Because it's not just something that happened out there in the world, but it's also symbolic for us. And if we can interpret the symbol of our daily lives, we can perhaps grow and mature like we want to, right? The card here also tells us that if we find courage and understanding from emotional conflicts, we will continue on our journey of self-discovery. So, even conflicts, and we might have conflicts with our partners, we might. If we find the courage to understand those conflicts, we will be moving forward on our path of self-discovery and our development. Rather than latching onto the story of that conflict, if we can interpret it, we will grow and maybe solve the conflict in the process. So, as the Page of Cups, remember, the creative one, the curious one, the dreamer, the sensitive, wants to read the stories of our lives, the allegory of our lives, and the allegory of the conflicts we have in the real world for our own maturity and growth and understanding of us in the world. As we are these eternal natures having these human experiences in what seems to be a very unsettling environment in this week. Does that make sense? I hope it does. And if it does, let me know. I would really love to hear from you. And friends, in just a moment, the QR code for my online tarot shop will be appearing. You can use that to go check out my shop and order a reading from me if you want. And friends, now, as always, I wish you love, joy, well-being, and pure awareness. Thank you.